and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show on which we find out that we have sight beyond sight. Maybe. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and joining me tonight, the Canuck that does not fear cataracts, Blind Press.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Blind Press.
Hi, Scribe.
How are you doing?
I'm well, actually, very well.
That is good that you are well. And I hope everyone else is doing well, too, on this Thursday night. Welcome to Thursday. Rainy Thursday over here. Stormy a little bit. Hopefully my power doesn't go out. Yeah, it's been a week. I did this on Monday. It seems like time has flown so fast. It's almost like we've been here before. Blind Press, for anybody who has no idea who you are or what you do, who are you and what do you do?
I am a completely blind content creator across YouTube and the Tickety Talk app and Twitter and all over the place. Blind Press is who I am, and I do on YouTube. I do a lot of commentary on news, a lot of Canadian politics, disability news. My take on being blind and being in the world as a blind person. I also play fighting games over on Twitch, particularly at the moment Mortal Kombat 11, because it's really, really fun. Yeah, that's basically who I am and what I do.
Cool. And yes, I have had Blind Press on at least twice in the past. She is my resident subject matter expert on all things where someone says, I'm disabled and fill in the blank. And I'm like, okay, well, usually I don't know these things. So ask someone who does. So here we are, because we have tonight an individual who says, visual impairment is my superpower. Now, when I see that, I think Daredevil. I don't know what this guy is going to claim, but we'll find out, and we'll have someone who knows a little bit, or at least presumably what he's talking about along the way, to tell us how accurate or how reasonable he's being about whatever his argument is. But before we get into all that, who is joining us tonight on this wonderful Thursday evening? Matt Barnes, hello. Funtime Bats, hello. Jaeger Pony, hello. Devil Fruit Zero, hello. Kiefer Dam, hello. J2021, hello. Attack Alpaca, hello. Blind Press, you're in the chat. Oh my gosh. Deco, hello. Jamie Melquist, hello. It's a Llama, hello. Hi, I'm Steve, hello. Roger Reynolds, hello. Absolute Germ, hello. For the Win, Nil, hello. Emperor WR Costin, hello. Useless Rebel, hello. Pink Hollow, the Driving Ape Man, amazingly that you're here too. Payar D Bayar, hello. So hope you guys are doing all well this evening. Let's see. So bingo card for tonight is C, because B and C got a tie in the poll. And since we did bingo card B the last show, I figured I'd just split the difference and go with bingo card C. So have your bingo cards ready. Links to the bingo cards are in the description. Let's see. Now, as a baseline before we begin, can not being able to see, or in our speaker's case, apparently having limited vision, can that somehow be a superpower? Because I have heard an old wives' tale, and I'm not referring to you, but I have heard an old wives' tale that in losing some aspect of your mobility, like you can't, your sense of hearing, your sense of sight, something like that, it requires the brain and the body to make the remaining senses more sensitive and thus perhaps beyond normal people. Is there any basis in truth to that?
I wouldn't say it's beyond normal people. It does, the brain does do physical remapping. They've done, there's actually been a recent study put out, they MRI'd a bunch of the blind people's brains, and these people were either born blind or lost their vision extremely young. And they saw that I think it was the visual cortex actually began to be stimulated, and the visual and audio cortexes kind of started to blend together, and the audio input kind of began to as well as tactile input. Like when a blind person reads Braille, for example,
Mm-hmm.
their visual cortex is stimulated.
Okay.
So their brain does like our brains do remap themselves, but it's not that our remaining senses are better than. It's just that we use them in a different sequence.
Okay. Now, and one other thing, I remember many years ago, like I was a kid, there was like I don't know, ABC 2020 or Dateline thing or something where it was some kid or some guy or something that used echolocation. He like clicked his tongue and stuff while he was blind and using his cane and everything, or actually didn't use this. That was the whole trick, or if not a trick, then what he could do, he would click his tongue as he was riding his bike or walking down the street in order to get a sense of where he was. Is that true, or is that
Yes.
nuts?
That I think his name is Daniel. I can't remember his last name, but his first name is Daniel.
Uh-huh.
And he does teach blind people how to navigate by clicking
Okay.
and utilizing that remapped
Okay.
like audio awareness.
Hmm.
I I don't like shit on people who do that, but I just don't find it conducive to navigating in society if you're just like walking around like it kind of makes you stick out a little bit more than normal
Hmm.
than say a cane or a guide dog.
Right.
If you're walking around going like that's kind of to me like as a sighted person I would be like what the fuck is that person you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It to me the cane and the guide dog are not just for me. They're identification tools as well as navigation and mobility aids.
Hmm.
And clicking doesn't necessarily connect with sighted people that person is clicking, therefore they are blind.
Right. It's not common parlance or anything.
Right.
Okay.
It's, yeah.
All right. Well, so that's about as baseline as I have for an understanding of what could be meant if someone says that some impairment of theirs thus equates to a superpower. But who knows what our speaker is going to say? We'll find out momentarily. So get your bingo cards ready, guys. This talk clocks in at just over 16 minutes. So one of the longer TEDx's. So let's dive right into it. I'll start out with a few seconds for a sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and then we'll proceed. Okay, do you guys hear a little clapping and everything?
Sounds good for me.
Okay, I'll check with the audience just to make sure. I mean, usually if the guest can hear it, everybody else can, but I'm paranoid that way, so. In the meantime, a couple other hellos. Chicago Mike, hello. Viror of Ashmedai, hello. Poker Pierce, hello. Arc210, hello. Zeke Weiss, hello. Cannibalistic Wizard, hello. And I think that's everybody.
Matt Barnes says it sounds good.
Yep, sounds like clapping, says Chicago Mike. You're right.
Sounds like clapping.
At least it's clapping and not the clap. All right, here we go.
Hello. I'm going to keep my sunglasses on while I talk to you, and it's not just because it makes me look cool.
I mean, I will admit the guy looks pretty cool. He's bald. He's got his sunglasses on. He's got a mighty goatee. So he looks kind of cool, I guess.
He could have a light sensitivity.
That's true too.
A lot of people with low vision or visual impairments do have light sensitivity issues.
Sure.
So it's like that is why if you do see a blind or low vision person wearing sunglasses, they either have a light sensitivity issue or their eyes are actually they actually are they're either small, like they just don't look like normal eyes.
Right.
So people will wear the dark glasses to kind of cover that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason for the sunglasses usually. Those are the two normal general reasons for visually impaired people to wear glasses.
It's also because these lights are a little bit hard for a blind guy, but we'll get to that. What I want to start with here is the idea that seeing less is not the same thing as seeing worse.
Okay. That's all right. Explain.
And that may be a little difficult for fully sighted people to understand. But the big point that I want to get across today is that if you're visually impaired, if you're blind, if you have a disability, that means many things. It means you've learned to overcome some challenges. It means that you have a different perspective than a lot of folks do. It means there's a lot you can't do and some things that you can do. Most importantly, it means that you can be involved in helping to build a community.
So far, I like the fact that this guy seems to be not talking from a place of victimhood.
Yeah, speaking of which, I was just about to look at the bingo card and remind ourselves what we're looking out for as we watch this TEDx. So first and foremost, right up in the top corner, as Blind Press just mentioned, plays victim. We'll see if he goes that direction. Let's see, going onward, leaves out vital context, weightless example, anecdote that probably never happened, benevolent condescension, self-vilification or wretchedness, feminism, childhood or family anecdote, privilege, sales pitch for product or service, or that can also be leveraged into like the charitable organization I run or something like that. He's advertising something. Microaggressions and conscious bias, patriarchy, wage gap, mind reading or assumes motives, attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase, word salad, diversity, equity, and inclusion, marginalization, contradicts own point or argument, systemic/institutional, a list, which is usually kind of a default, but we'll see, white supremacy, make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason, and lastly, collectivizes own demographic. We'll see if he hits upon any of these as we go forward.
But before we get to any of that, I'd like to start by explaining a little bit of the nature of my own disability, my own visual impairment. So no matter what I do, no matter what kind of glasses I wear, no matter what kind of low vision aids I use, the best sight that I will ever have is 20/200.
Okay, so he's legally blind.
Legally blind, okay.
Yeah.
You know how the 20/20 scale works, then you know that the higher that second number, the worse your vision. But that might not tell you a lot. So if you think about the 20/20 scale as a relativistic scale, what it really means is that if you have 20/20 or perfect vision, what you can see from 200 feet away, I would have to be 20 feet away from the same thing to see it the same way you do.
Yeah.
This doesn't mean that I don't see it at all. And it certainly doesn't mean that the image is blurry or distorted or confusing. It just means that I don't really see it in the way that you see it. So for instance, with these trees, if I was walking along with someone who was fully sighted and they pointed down the way and they said, "Hey, Jake, look at that tree down there." I'd probably look and I'd squint and I'd shrug my shoulders and I'd say, "Well, I believe you." And we keep walking closer and closer to the tree. As we got closer and closer to the tree, I'd start to see some of it. I start to see some green on the top and some brown on the bottom. And as we got to that 20-foot mark, that's when I'd start to see all the different colors of the leaves. I'd start to see all the details in the bark. Okay, again, at this point, I'm seeing it the way you saw it 200 feet ago. But now the issue becomes we're no longer 200 feet away. And what you see again is still not what I see, because I'm just now seeing what you could see way back there. This is why it can be really difficult for me to answer the question, so what exactly can you see?
Yeah, okay.
Trust me, dude. At least you try trying to describe seeing nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I get it, dude. Like, I get this guy. Like, I get that it's hard to describe, like, the disparity.
Mm-hmm.
But trying to describe to someone who could see fully the complete absence of sight.
Right.
Is like trying to describe to me sight.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
opposite sides of the spectrum
not gonna
completely.
happen.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, for myself, now I just have bad sight. I have to wear glasses. My vision stops being clear about 4 inches in front of my face, and then everything goes blurry. But I'm still able to navigate through the world. I can still sort of make out depth and distance and stuff like that. So I try to describe that to people sometimes, and they just sort of think, "Oh, okay, you just sort of change the focus on your camera lens, and that's what it looks like." Like, more or less, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Nothing controversial so far. And again, it's not necessarily the case that all TEDx's are controversial or silly or something else. I've watched some really good TEDx's before. This might be one.
Yeah, this guy seems pretty. Somebody in the chat said this guy's very, very well spoken, and somebody else said this is actually very informative. So far, he's actually being very like. He's being very, very good. A very good speaker.
Yeah, he hasn't stood up as some like aggrandizing himself as some survivor warrior or something. But it's early days. We're only 3 minutes in, so we'll see what happens.
Well, I don't know how to answer that all the time because I've never seen what the rest of you see. I was born this way.
All right, well, that's a childhood or family anecdote, technically. So I'm going to put that up on the board. And that along with free space. So we have 2 on the board. And as things are going, I'd be surprised if we actually got a bingo today, but we'll see. We'll see.
And the thing about that is I've now spent about 40 years trying to figure out how to talk to sighted people and how to explain what it looks like from my point of view.
Well, I guess my reflexive question is why? Why do people need to know what you see?
That's the biggest, like, the only time that I'm really care about, like, genuinely care, other than trying to provide a simple analogy, is if I'm actively doing a presentation about blindness.
Right.
And part of those presentations, generally, I would like to get a couple of volunteers and do a couple of vision simulations, because there are different like simulators that you can actually wear that will show you different vision conditions, like eye conditions. And then there's the straight up, blacked out, completely, totally blind blindfold that you can put on people. That's the only time that I would really actively care about getting people to understand or show and simulate what I see or what other blind people see. Like, I wouldn't spend my entire life, like, I must show people what I see.
Well, unless, I guess maybe he'll explain, but unless he's like an educator or if he functions in some kind of role where that's like a regular part of his
he
routine.
sounds like he might be like an advocate or.
Real quick, thank you, Matt Barnes. It's not Christmas, but do you see what I see? I think I do. It's a TEDx. Here we go.
So one more thing that you need to know about my visual impairment is it's a form of albinism. It's called ocular albinism. Like any other kind of albinism, what that essentially means...
You a pale white boy. Oh, sorry.
...is that I don't have much pigment.
Yes.
And because I don't have much pigment, particularly in my eyes, not only do I have poor vision, but I also have extreme light sensitivity.
Yeah.
Hence the sunglasses. Some of you may be a little familiar with this. You might have a point of reference. If you think about snow blindness. If you've lived in Ohio most of your life, you've probably been outside on a sunny winter's day and then turn around and gone back into your much more dimly lit home. And as you try to make that transition, what you realize is it's a little disorienting. Everything's a little out of focus. It's not quite how it's supposed to be. And maybe there might even be a little bit of a headache for you as you try to adjust your vision. Those vision headaches are really familiar to me. That snow blindness It doesn't just happen to me once in a while in the winter. It happens to me every time someone turns the lights on or off, especially if I don't know that that's coming.
Real quick, thank you, Chicago Mike. The best way I can describe my own vision without corrective lenses, everything looks like a Claude Monet painting.
Oh God.
Yeah, I could see that. I like I say, it's just for me, it's the whole world just goes into a big fuzz. There was a period of time where I'd spend nights not wearing my glasses because somebody had told me that if you, and again, old wives' tale thing, if you leave your corrective lenses off for periods of time, your eyes could conceivably improve themselves and just trying to force their way into sort of understanding the world or something. I don't know if there's any truth to that. I don't think it did anything, but yeah. And then of course, when I had the stroke in my eye and I went blind in my one eye for the time being, and I thought that might be permanent. That was interesting. Putting it mildly and being very generous about it. It was an interesting experience. So yeah, sight in my family's always been a thing because we're a family of glasses from practically birth almost, and my sister is blind in one eye, and so yeah, it's always been kind of a concern.
As a matter of fact, my family has taken to announcing all light changes. So before they hit a light switch, they say lights, and they do this so often that when my son's friends come over, they've often thought that our lights work on a voice command system. But I do appreciate their help with that.
Look, a family anecdote.
That's true. Oh, we already had a childhood or family anecdote. Got that one. Let's see. No, I'm looking at the card real quick. No, so far it hasn't hit anything else as far as I can tell. So let's see. Real quick. Thank you, tall person. Hoy, can't watch live. We'll watch in full later. Happy National Sunday Day.
Ooh.
Wait, that sounds really... Did I make this same joke last year at this same time? Sunday Day? When it's not Sunday? Shouldn't Sunday Day be on a Sunday? Sunday Day?
Unless it's an ice cream sundae.
Oh. Well, no, yeah, this is an ice cream sundae. It's Happy National Sunday. I'm assuming with the AE at the end. Okay, Sunday Day.
So all of these things, this light sensitivity and this theoretically poor vision relative to other folks, what it means is that I have a disability.
Right.
And in my experience, a lot of folks, particularly sighted folks, particularly fully abled folks, a lot of them really hate that word, disabled.
He's not wrong. Because when you look at the disability activism sphere, it's usually the more high functioning or quote ally that insists on that person first bullshit. Well, I'm a person with a disability. I'm not disabled.
I see. Okay.
I'm a person with a disability. Like that crap.
Okay.
Like he's not wrong there.
Okay, I wasn't quite sure who he was going with this. Like I said, it's an accurate description of someone. It's not meant to be a pejorative necessarily. But people are avoiding using that word because they don't want to be like not PC. Is that kind of? Yeah. Okay.
They're uncomfortable with that first part, that dis. They want to get it out of the way as quickly as possible. They want to forget that there's things we can't do.
I guess my hesitation was I was trying to think like I don't hate the word.
Yeah.
Like, I was trying to think like I if I had to use it, I wouldn't resist using it or something. I don't. It just struck me as odd. Like hate that word. Why? Okay. But from you, what you explain, that makes more sense.
They don't want to make us feel guilty or feel bad that we're not able to do things. But having a disability means embracing all of that. It means embracing the things that you can't do, embracing the things that you can do, and understanding how to bridge that gap, how you're going to have to do things differently if you want to be able to do them. Okay, as a couple examples here. I can't drive a car. Obviously, it would be pretty dangerous if I did. I can't fill out paperwork at the doctor's office usually. For that matter, I can't usually read the menu in most restaurants. So does that mean that if I can't drive, I can't go to work? Well, of course not. I have 2 feet. I can walk to work. I can ride my bicycle to work. Or I can catch...
I guess you have enough vision to ride a bike.
Yeah. And then he's getting... Oh, yeah. By the way, Keyword Dan reminds me. That's a list. Yes, it is.
It is a list.
This is something that not specifically about having a physical disability, but just something that I've kind of had to... I've had more than once had to have one of those tough love conversations with somebody who says something like, I can't do that, or this, either it's social anxiety or a mental, something is preventing them from doing whatever it is that they know or want to be doing or whatever.
Yeah.
And having, again, I'll bring up my sister. She lost sight in her eye when she was very young, and she's lived as full and active and functional a life as you can imagine. And so when my sight went out of my eye, I was scared because I didn't know what was going to happen. But I also had sitting right there with me that day when it happened, my sister, who had lived her entire life this way, and she was fine. So I had sort of a ray of hope in there. But even before then, I've had conversations with people who, they've got issues or they've got limitations or something, and I'll try to encourage them to, move beyond that. I can't do it. No, I won't be able to. I said, okay, let's pretend for a second that everything you're saying is absolutely true, right? This social anxiety you've got prevents you from getting a real job, or this, that, and the other. Okay, let's just say that's absolutely true. There's no way to get around it. That is a barrier. What can you do within that space? Because if these are the boundaries of your ability, then you've got everywhere from here to there to still operate.
Yeah.
So even if there's something that you cannot overcome, you have to ask us what you can do. There's this great documentary years ago called Murder Ball, where this guy, I think his last name was Zupan or something. Anyway, he was a guy who got in a car wreck when he was a teenager, he became a paraplegic. And then he was like, I'm either going to sit around and be sad my entire life and hate myself, or I can do something. And so he worked within the boundaries that fate had given him, and he became a Paralympian wheelchair basketball player. Nice. And if you've ever seen wheelchair basketball, it's not just like friendly rolling around on the floor. No, it's roller derby, crash. It's insane. You've ever seen it? They got like armored wheelchairs smashing into each other. It's like rugby plus basketball plus I don't even know what you want to call it, like a demolition derby on a basketball court. It's insane. But the guy, that's the thing. Okay, life throws an obstacle in front of you. All right, you can't get past it. But everywhere between where you are and that obstacle is the freedom of movement you have to do as much as you can.
Yes.
And so it's a philosophy we should all have. It's one I've been working on bits and pieces for most of my life, but it's one that I encourage everybody to do, because I've got, things that are intangible that seemingly prevent me from doing certain things just because of, mental stuff or otherwise. It's like, okay, well, if I'm not good at doing that and I know I'm not going to do it, I don't have an excuse for anything that leads up to that, if you know what I mean.
Exactly.
So that, what he's saying here anyway, just click that switch in my brain. I wanted to say that before I go any further.
To the RTA and join the beautiful community of people who ride the bus. Okay. If I need to go to the doctor, I'm going to have to fill out their paperwork. So I'm going to have to ask for some help with that, either from a receptionist, or if my wife is with me, or a friend. And if I'm at a restaurant, it's certainly not that I'm not going to figure out a meal. I'm not going to miss a meal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask someone at my table to help me read, or I'm just going to ask the server what tastes good that day. Okay. So it's all about figuring out how you're going to function in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, you start to develop a love of your disability.
Wait. You were born with vision bad enough that you cannot read, and you weren't taught Braille?
Oh, he hasn't said yay or nay on that yet, no. So you love your disability. I mean,
I
guess. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I don't love my. I don't know if I wouldn't choose that language necessarily. I mean, like maybe that's his perspective on it, but like I definitely don't love or hate it.
It just is.
Just is.
Yeah, you just accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't, because you don't really have a choice. But okay, let's see if he expands on that.
No offense to any of you who have better sight than me, but I would not want to see how you see.
I guess that's a personal choice.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody could fix my eyesight tomorrow, I'm not interested.
Why?
For a couple of reasons. Okay. I mean, first of all, I really like this unique perspective that I have. But more than that,
you wouldn't lose
I like being who I am.
You would be not...
That's a better reason.
Could be. I mean, but it reminds me of another conversation I had with a friend of mine before I started taking medication for my issues. I was so against taking medication, and because I told my friend, I said, I don't know what it's going to do to me, and I don't want to stop being me.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I've been on medication for most of my adult life. Am I not me?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I didn't have an argument against that, right? So, yeah.
Okay. I don't see how if you had, like, I like who I am is a much better reason to me than I don't want to lose the perspective I have, because I don't see how your perspective would, like, if I got my vision back somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would magically forget all of the lessons I had to learn.
You'd hope not. And it's the same thing as like anybody who moves from one state in life to another that's drastically different. I mean, it's possible you're going to forget your origins and like start, I think of it like if somebody who was some penniless actor and then they become a zillionaire celebrity, and then they forget the little people, they forget what it used to be like to have to earn a living, etc., that kind of thing. That can happen. I don't know if that'd be my first concern, especially if it was something that might inherently improve my life. But then you have those, and we've talked about this previously, you have aspects of certain disabled communities that are anti-assistance or anti-cure, quote unquote, for any kind of disability.
Yeah.
I wonder, it doesn't sound like that's where he's going, but I'm curious to see what he says.
And a big part of who I am is being blind.
Is it though? That kind of makes me think of like, and I know I keep pausing here. I apologize, but it just makes me think of people who like identify as their race or something.
Yeah.
Like, is it really a healthy thing to have your disability be part of your identity? Now, I don't know his perspective, literally or figuratively, but maybe I don't know.
To me, like when people say, "Tell me about yourself," right? Like if I'm not meeting them face to face and it's not obvious to them that I'm blind, right? And they say, "Tell me about yourself," right?
Right.
My reaction is to start to start listing the things that I am in control of first. Like I like music. I like video games. I'm a mom, I'm stuff, and then after all of those things, then I go, oh yeah, I'm blind.
Yeah, because I mean, like
it's not me. Like that's just something that happened to me.
Yeah, like so many other things I've talked about on this channel, there are non-determinative attributes of people that say nothing about who you are. Like being blind says nothing about the kind of person you are. It's not a character trait. Now, maybe some people, and I'm sure maybe he's about to do so, can make an argument that it has helped define who he is. But it by itself, like I say, I'm not blind. I'm not disabled in any serious way, let's say, so I don't necessarily have that argument to make.
You wouldn't like walk around going, "Hi, I'm Scribe Light. I have depression and anxiety."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. yeah,
not
I don't.
what you would do, right?
No,
Like,
it's not a character trait. It's not something I say. Not going to list off as like somebody describe yourself to people. Well, I'm, and then, yeah. So okay, let's see where he goes.
So, I don't want to change that.
Okay, that's your choice.
That kind of comfort with your own disability, that's something that does take work, and it takes time, and it's something that you need help with. And a lot of people in my life have been very helpful to me. Probably the most helpful person was the first and best teacher I ever had, and that was my mom. Mm-hmm. My mom had 3 children, my older brother, my younger sister, and stuck in the middle was me. I was the only one of her 3 kids that had a disability. But my mom had a mission. Her mission was to raise good, independent people. And so that meant I wasn't going to be allowed to skip chores because I couldn't see. I wasn't going to be allowed to not do well in school because I couldn't see very well.
Good on mom.
Yes.
Good on mom.
That was my mom.
I can't imagine what given what I see in certain schools and parenting these days, I can't imagine what would have happened if his mom had been of this generation versus the one that she was. But thank you, Ms. Tickle Trunk. Been lurking tonight. Love you all in chat. Is lubbing more squishy than loving? Because it sounds like there's more lub. There's more tongue action in saying lub.
I would think so.
Yeah, Mr. Tickle Trunk loves people. You.
I was going to have to learn how to compete and how to do everything that my siblings could do and maybe a little more. Mm-hmm. So my mom got to work. She got creative. And she got innovative. For example, she taught me how to vacuum the floor barefoot because she figured if I couldn't see the mess on the carpet, I could run my bare foot across it and I could feel it until I knew it was clean. It's actually worked really well. It's how I still vacuum today. The only time it got me into any trouble was when I worked at a pizza shop and they wanted me to vacuum the dining room. Yeah. So I quickly got...
You didn't actually take off your shoes and socks at your work, did you, dude?
Oh, let's find out.
Please tell me.
I didn't have to do that good a job.
Okay.
It wasn't just with chores, though. My mom also helped me with education. It was 6th grade when we really started getting a lot of chapter books and a lot of like really heavy reading. And I just physically could not read that much, that long every night. And so every evening, my mom would sit at the dining room table with me and she would read novel after novel after novel while I filled out all the book reports and the study guides and did all the homework.
His mother's a saint.
Yeah, I mean,
absolute saint.
That's an awesome, great thing for his mom to have done. Personally, if I was his mom, because also that would have taken time out of caring for her other 2 kids. Mm-hmm. Which, like, you've got to balance that out, right? Even if you have a disabled child, you can't forget your other kids.
Well, it sounds like that she was helping out right up to the limit of what he couldn't do for himself, which sounds like the healthiest way to do it. Which is,
I might have pushed for a Braille instruction at that point. Like, if he really couldn't read that well.
Yeah.
Like, especially because he said he was about 40, right? So, 6th grade, that would have been like I think early 80s maybe. So the magnification technology wouldn't have been there. So he really probably should have at least been getting like large print or Braille.
Yeah, it is surprising he hasn't brought up Braille yet or anything, given all his... So, okay.
She got me through school like that. And she also got me through school by helping me to navigate the IEP process. If you're a student with a disability, legally, you're supposed to be given what are called reasonable accommodations.
Yes.
These are things that are supposed to make a fairly even playing field between you and your peers. The accommodations that I had mostly pertain to enlarging text for me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
that would have good.
Okay. When an IEP is written, especially when I was a kid.
What is an IEP? Do you know?
IEP stands for Individual Education Plan. So
okay.
I had one. Mine specified that I needed all of my notes that were like the sheets and stuff that would have been handed out to the class had to be given to my specialized Braille and educational assistant workers a couple of days in advance so that they could put them into Braille for me.
Right.
So that I wasn't just sitting there going, the hell is going on?
Right.
Okay. I also had longer, when it came to test taking and exams, I was given an extra, I think it was double time and a half. Because reading Braille, like even at a fast pace, you're gonna be reading slower and than you would with your eyes, because you can't just scan you cannot just speed read with Braille. So it takes extra time to read your question, like answer your it's just longer. So I was required that I needed extra time to write an exam, just because of the Braille part.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that was that. I'm glad that he got one, and that it was text enlargement, because that can make your vision worse. Like if you've got bad vision the way he does, and you're straining to read, like he says that he was, that can make it worse, and you can start giving yourself headaches, and it's no good. So I'm glad that they got him that plan.
Okay.
The child was never involved in the process. The parents would be there, the teachers would be there, and intervention specialists would be there.
Yeah.
But no one ever was concerned about the student. And that really bothered my mom.
Okay, that's not true.
Okay, well, it's actually talking about his experience.
Okay, let's see.
She figured that if these plans were supposed to affect me, then at the very least, I should be aware of them, but really, I should have some sort of say in them.
I mean, I guess I don't know how old he was when they started doing this. Maybe he wasn't thought of as has to be a contributor to the whole process, but not have any involvement. I don't know what your experience was like when you started getting these things.
Well, because again, I don't know why he didn't start school with an IEP. The way he's talking, it sounds like it happened closer to middle school.
Yeah, because if his mom was reading him the books and everything, then it doesn't sound like any special accommodations are being made at that point. But then I don't know. I don't know what his timeline is here, because he's kind of jumping all over the place.
Yeah, the way that he's talking about this sounds like he was, he said that he was born this way.
Yes.
So, and his vision has pretty much always been 20/200. So then he should have started school even 20, even in the 70s. No, maybe not in the 70s. He might not have. Well, if he's 40 now.
Yeah, if he's 40 now, then he's younger than I am, so he's in the early 80s.
Early 80s, yeah. Then he should have had an IEP.
Yeah.
Right. I don't understand this.
Yeah, if he's apparently he's speaking in Ohio. I don't know if that's where he's from.
And I also don't understand what he means when he says that the teachers, the parents, and the interventionists don't have a concern about the child. If they didn't have a concern, yes, there's a legal duty, but if they didn't have a concern, they wouldn't be putting together the plan.
Let's see what he says.
So I've been going to IEP meetings ever since second grade.
Yeah, second grade?
No, No.
Okay.
You have no business in your IEP meetings at 7. I'm sorry.
Second grade, yeah.
I took part in IEP meetings when I was like a teenager.
Well, it sounds like he had a very involved and caring mother who might have pushed to have him involved.
Maybe because my mom was very much almost like this mom, very much a you need to be independent, you need to advocate for yourself type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I was young, but she also had a very firm line on you're a child still,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to learn first before you can start having input in things that can affect you. You can't just start making big decisions without learning about things. Now, that was the way.
Sounds like mom might have been the squeaky wheel on his behalf.
I think so. Yeah.
And by the time I was in high school, I was running my own IEP meetings.
That sound reasonable?
No.
Okay, yeah.
I was standing up to teachers and principals, and I was saying, yeah, you really do have to enlarge my homework every single time.
Oh, you can stand up to your teachers and principals. I did that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea how many teachers I had for the entire grade, the entire year, that in January, February, March would be handing out things to the class and going, "Oh, I forgot to get it to your transcriptionist."
Right.
And I'd be like, "Okay, no, you didn't, because it's not September anymore."
All right.
No. This is
it should be part of your routine at this point.
Yeah.
We haven't just met yesterday or anything.
No, yeah. But I never I know a lot of people who work with kids with many different types of disabilities right up to grade 12. And while the older ones can take part in their meetings, it is unheard of. Unless they're unless they're 18 and they're in grade 12 and they've moved out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then they'd be running their IEP meetings. But if they're a minor and they're still living with their parents and they still require their parents' permission to leave the school, no, I don't think they should be running their education plan. Input, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But running, that feels a little bit like the tail wagging the dog to me.
Okay.
And yes, if I can't read your chalkboard, I'm going to get out of my seat. I'm going to walk up to the board and I'm going to read it. And I'd also say things like, yeah, I actually can try out for the basketball.
Sorry, what?
Why wouldn't you ask to sit at the front of the class? If you...
I don't know.
Dude, don't make things just because you need an accommodation doesn't give you the right to disrupt everybody else.
Walk up to the board and I'm going to read it. And I'd also say things like, yeah, I actually can try out for the basketball team and the track team. And you know what? I might just be able to throw a shot put further than anybody else. So maybe you want to let me.
Track, yeah.
Okay.
You could get a guide to run. Basketball at high school level, I would say...
With 2200?
With 2200 vision, I would say probably not. There are definitely high school sports that you could do. You could do the track and field. You could do wrestling. You could do...
I guess my first question is short of something that was obvious, like a barrier that could not be overcome, is a school, and here's the thing, I don't know this particular part of the law, but are schools allowed to bar students from certain activities based on a disability that I mean, like, again, if someone is a paraplegic, they probably can't run track, obviously. But I mean, in his case, would a school be authorized to tell him he couldn't do some of these things? Or I don't know. I don't know what the laws or the considerations are for sight.
This is where it gets tricky because disabled students do have a right to be included in education, right? So
yes.
In things like physical education, I used to be dragged out of class and made to go do things with my educational assistant. And that made me very, very resentful.
Mm-hmm.
However, when it comes to team sports, where you are dealing with not only a group of people in your own school, but possibly and most likely other schools who don't know that you have a vision problem, then it gets dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And the school not only has a duty to protect you, but it has a duty to protect everybody else.
Right.
The way I got around things, like I was on the volleyball team in grade 6. And I actually took part in competition. But I didn't take part in any of the scrimmages at the net where you volley back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I did serves. So when it each came time up for a player from each team to go and actually serve the ball, that's when I would go and serve, because I would know where the net was, and I was actually pretty good at serving. So I was able to kind of take part that way. But I think it would be very dangerous especially if you're on like it or not, a boys basketball team in high school gets pretty rough and tumble. So I wouldn't see how, like, in a gym class, yeah, I could see that him taking part in a basketball game. You could make an accommodation for that. Not on a inter-school competition level, though. I could see that getting very dangerous.
Right.
Granted, I didn't know where I was throwing it, but I could throw it far.
That doesn't mean you should do shot put.
I was about to say that when he brought up the shot put thing, my first thought was, well, there are other people standing around on the field. If you don't know where you're throwing it, then maybe. So I mean, if it's just a joke, okay, but all the same, there are some things that probably need to be like Blind here said, for consideration of not just yourself, but for other people's safety.
These skills help me out a lot, not just as a student to give me confidence, but since then, as I became a teacher and I had my own students.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of students who had IEPs, so they needed help in navigating that same system. But it's not just students with disabilities that I've been able to be helpful to. Every single semester, when I get a new group of students, I always tell them about my disability. I tell them a lot of the same stories I'm telling you today.
Okay. Just so they know that
I would hope you tell your students about your disability.
Yeah.
What this does is it makes me vulnerable in front of my students. They know that I'm going to have to ask for their help from time to time. They know that I might teach class wearing sunglasses sometimes. They know that if I can't read their handwriting, I might ask them to read it to me. Every single time that I ask my students for help, they always help.
Because most people are genuinely decent, thankfully. Yeah. So, yeah. Unless they're lying to you and trying to get someone over on you and you wouldn't know it. But hey, kids are kids.
And because I'm willing to be vulnerable with them, they're more likely to be vulnerable with me and ask for help when they need it.
Okay. All right. Legitimate.
This is why being blind has literally made me a better teacher.
I I mean, as a pathway to gaining a connection with your students, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay, fine.
And it's really come in handy in job interviews. Because when you say those things to a principal or to a dean, trust me, you almost always get the teaching job.
No,
I'll remember that in the future.
I'll let me tell you something else that helps.
Mm-hmm.
He still has a bit of vision.
Yeah, he is. And for those of you listening at home, some people listen to this as a podcast. He has been making bodily movements indicating that he is like seeing things and he's looking up at the board and everything else. So he can still, as he's explained, he can still navigate the world to a certain extent.
Yeah. That, as I always say, it's really hard because the unemployment rate in the blind community is insanely high.
Okay.
And those of and the people that do get the jobs in the blind community, 9 times out of 10 have a bit of vision.
Right.
If you told an employer you have a disability quota to hire or to fill, you must hire 1 disabled person. I have 2 candidates here for you.
Right.
One is completely blind. One has 3% vision. The employer is going to pick the 3% vision person.
Right.
It's just a fact. It's because psychologically, subconsciously, people with sight want to be able to find something to relate to with the person they're hiring.
Sure.
And it is harder to relate to somebody who cannot see anything in their mind.
Yeah, just to be coldly pragmatic, there's advantages to having somebody who can walk around the office without special considerations versus someone who needs special considerations, etc. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Which is wonderful, but is also a little upsetting to me when I read about the unemployment rate for the blind and the visually impaired.
Well, are you psychic or something over there? Jeez.
It's astronomically high.
It is.
I feel like I'm having deja vu suddenly.
And I think that the reason for that is not because blind people don't want to work or because blind people can't work.
Right.
It's because when an employer sees a candidate...
Oh, maybe...
I swear.
We've already been here.
This.
We've already been here, but okay. Yes,
I swear to God, I didn't watch this.
We had a free preview, guys. We're already here.
Who's using a white cane or a guide dog or who needs adaptive software loaded onto the company computers so they can function properly. When an employer sees that candidate, all they see are challenges and obstacles.
Yep.
And furthermore, those are challenges and obstacles that one candidate has that 15 other candidates don't have. And so their choice becomes really simple. They never pick the challenge.
Oh.
But that's exactly the problem. What they haven't seen is that overcoming that challenge is itself a skill set. It's...
What? Are you going to say something? Sorry.
No.
Okay.
The skill set that just might be valuable to you and to your team and to your community. Not only that, but that person who is blind or visually impaired, again, they do see less than you, but they're not seeing worse than you. They have a different perspective than you. And while I have the chance, I do want to clear one thing up too. When I say that blind people have superpowers, it's not because we're Daredevil.
Oh, man. See, I got my hopes up. I thought he was going to start doing parkour off the sign and everything.
Right?
Oh, man.
We don't have echolocation hearing, no matter.
Oh, what? I was just I'm so disappointed.
No matter what folks tell you. As a matter of fact, it's not actually true that one sense automatically improves when another sense diminishes.
Everything's going out the window here. Gosh, between
He's
you,
giving away all our secrets.
I know, but between my baseline thing at the beginning and you talking about employment before he did, we basically could have done this presentation between the two of us. Jeez, I could just sat here and talk to you for an hour and we've been the same thing. Nah.
There's nothing automatic about it. If you want that to happen, you're going to have to put in a lot of work to refine your hearing and hear well. And a lot of blind people just so happen to have done that, which again is another benefit that they can bring to the table.
I have ridiculously good hearing. I like hear things, like when I'm sleeping at night. There's a power strip near my bed, and when everything is out and everything's quiet, if I turn my head the right direction, I can hear the buzzing of the light inside the button on the power strip.
Oh, that would drive me crazy.
But the buzzing of that light on the power strip disappears as soon as I plug in my little iPad thing into its little charger. Like the power just suddenly is routed just enough below the level that suddenly the thing goes out. It's bizarre.
Were you ever able to hear that awful high-pitched noise that tube TVs made?
Yes. Oh yeah, no, I hear ridiculous. I mean, like, I'll ask people around me when I'm hearing something very distinctly, like high pitched whatever or something, and it is crystal clear to me, but nobody hears it. There was a time where I was in my apartment and I had a couple of people over and we were just talking, and I stopped in the middle of something and I said, "Do you guys hear that?" And I'm like, "What?" "That alarm." I'm like, everybody stopped still, and everybody's like, "No." And so I kept listening for a second, and I walked around, and long story short, the smoke alarm was going off in the apartment below me because the heater that had just been installed by the building or by the people or whatever had been installed incorrectly, and it was sparking off and getting ready to burn the whole building down.
Oh, good.
And
so,
and the guy downstairs, he worked nights, so he wasn't there when it was happening. So I was like, there's a smoke alarm going off and there's nobody home. I went down to the apartment, knocked on it, nobody was there, called the fire department. They had to break the window, and then the little smoke comes out, and then they found the thing. And yeah, I don't think I've ever been actually compensated for saving the whole building, but that had happened. Yeah, so, anyway.
Our theme today is community. And as I understand it, community is built when people who have different perspectives try really hard to understand what the world looks like from somebody else's point of view.
That's part of a community.
That's part of it. I've heard those same kind of words being used as leverage for saying, I need to see someone who is or looks a particular way and assume to know their experience. Because I often hear that. Now I'm not accusing our speaker of anything, but I often hear that same refrain, as in, when you see me, you see that I am a woman or a black person or something else, which means that I have a particular lived experience, etc. So if you're talking about individuals, yes. Looking at this guy and just seeing or maybe acknowledging that he has a disability only tells me that. It tells me nothing else about who he is.
Yes.
Just what he might possess or not possess. That's it. But anyway, I know I might be jumping the gun here, but we only got like 10 seconds left on this stuff.
I think blind folks could help a lot with that. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now, am I off base in him saying that, and that falls within collectivize his own demographic?
I believe so. I don't believe you're off base.
Okay, because again, all blind people are not the same.
No.
Regardless of or visually impaired, even if you put their ability to see on a obvious spectrum, that does not mean that all visually impaired people, as a monolith, have something to teach everybody else. Not necessarily. I mean, I don't want to assume that, like, I see someone who has a disability, oh, they must be wise in the ways of this, that, and the other.
Yeah, no, not every visual, like, when you say visually impaired, like, the amount of ways vision can be impaired is staggering. Like, have tunnel vision. You could only see out of your periphery. You could
color blindness.
Actual
color blindness.
Yeah.
Not when people say, "Oh, I'm colorblind." Oh, you can't see color. No, shut up.
Yeah. People sometimes they get like little bursts of random colored flashes, or just dots that just dance across their vision.
Right.
It's so vast and varied. Even the ways that totally blind people can be totally blind are so very, 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 I hate to use the word, but diverse.
What? Okay, now guys, that doesn't count towards the bingo card because she said it, not the speaker. But speaking of which, let's go over the bingo card once. So Blind Press and I will go over it once, and if there are any other squares that you guys think should be circled, keep your arguments handy, and we'll get to them presently. So first off, plays victim. I didn't get the sense he was playing a victim, but I don't know. What do you think?
I don't either. There were a couple of things in that he was talking about, that happened, the way that his mom did things. Not necessarily what, I think my mom would have done, or, but I don't think that necessarily they're bad, or that he was victimizing himself.
Right.
Or
I never got
anything.
that sense.
No.
Leaves out vital context. Well, I mean, he eventually explained, like, you had the question about Braille, and he eventually explained that it was larger text, so that, I guess that cleared it up. Was there anything very important that you felt was left out of this?
I don't think so. He did jump around a bit, but he managed to clear everything up, like, eventually, so...
Okay. Weightless example. Nothing... I mean, given the nature of the talk, we're just kind of like walking through what it's like to be him. If I just look at it like that, he didn't leave out anything that felt, or put in anything that felt like it wasn't relevant. At least I don't think.
Yeah, no, I think his examples were all very, like, topical and relevant.
Okay. Anecdote that probably never happened.
No. I did. There was definitely a family anecdotes, but not. I don't think any of the things that he recounted didn't happen. Like
but now you had some resistance to the idea that he was running his own IEPs at second grade.
Yeah, well, I don't think he should have been involved.
Okay, but you don't think it's impossible?
I think that the way he described his mom.
Yeah.
There are some moms of disabled kids that almost get militant about their kids' independence.
Sure.
And they maybe push their kids to be involved in things earlier than they should be. Or, like, actually, when I was coming back from visiting my friend in the summer on the train, there was a mom traveling with her teenage daughter, and her teenage daughter was wheelchair bound. And they didn't mention that to the conductors, so they had a bit of an issue getting her up the train stairs.
Oh.
And so the conductor was, just trying to be accommodating and said, hey, when we get to your stop, we have a lift that we can arrange to have be there.
Right.
So that it's easier for your daughter to disembark. And the mother was incredibly offended that this would even be suggested.
I see.
It was like, no, that's not necessary. We don't need that. And the conductor's like, I'm just trying to be helpful.
Right.
It's just to make things a little bit easier for her, a little bit easier for us, to get all the passengers off and everybody on their way. And no, this is not necessary. She's fine.
Okay.
And the conductor, like, I was sitting right near where they have their walkie-talkies and, like, their little station at the front of the train car. And she walks by me And under her breath, she's like, all right, you don't want to make things easier on your daughter? That's on you.
Yeah.
It's just like, dude, why do you need to be like that?
Yeah, I guess there's a line between encouraging independence and then just being a jerk.
Yeah.
Let's see. Benevolent condescension. I didn't get any sense of condescension out of this guy, benevolent or otherwise.
No.
This guy has one of those voices that should be like reading audiobooks or something. Very
soft spoken. Yeah.
Very soft spoken, very gentle sounding. Self vilification or wretchedness. Nope. Feminism, didn't even bring it up. Anything like that. Privilege. I mean, the argument could be made when he's comparing and contrasting what people can do versus what people can't do, what impaired people can do versus what blind people can do, with the employer picking one or the other. I guess you could make the argument.
Admitting, like, he almost admitting that there is a gap between visually impaired and blind in the employment field.
Yeah.
Like, that there is a privilege for being...
Yeah. I'll circle privilege. I think on aggregate, I think that was at least not necessarily something he was leaning on, but that was definitely in the message of...
Pincalos's blind privilege is real.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. The privilege of being forced to ask people to drive you everywhere. Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, you have the privilege of being married to Pincalo.
That's true. But that's not a blind thing.
That's true. Sales pitch for product or service. He talked about his job, but he didn't mention his school or some organization, and so I didn't get that. Unless he's advertising for blind people to be hired, but I don't. Nah, that's a stretch too far. Microaggressions, unconscious bias. Well, he did allude to what like employers see or what they think when they assess who they're going to hire. So in that sense, it's not even necessarily an unconscious bias, but it is a bias. And the numbers don't lie about the employment rate of visually impaired or blind people.
No,
so
they don't.
I think that's actually one of the instances where that's being said either not ironically unironically, and also not being said as some kind of like leverage of oppression or something. No. It's actually a truth.
Agreed.
Patriarchy.
No.
I was curious as to he never mentioned his father in the situation. I guess
that was interesting.
Maybe it was a single mom. It's hard to tell. But no, there wasn't anything. I didn't get anything. He talked about himself being a father, but there was nothing. Yeah, no sexual politics going on or anything. Wage gap. I'm hesitant to lean back on the employment thing again because he didn't talk about the differences in pay, but I don't know. Was there anything in there about a wage gap? Did he talk about?
No.
Yeah, employment's one thing, but he'd have to like compare and contrast. Like if he'd said something to the effect of, visually impaired people are paid less than, fully sighted people. If he said something like that, then maybe, but no. Mind reading assumes motives. I mean,
I don't think so.
With the employment thing again, he was citing something that's actually true. The unemployment rate is not a made up fact or something. No. The part at the end where he's talking about how that might be a stretch to say the whole collectivized zone demographic thing is also him sort of like assuming that all blind people have this motivation to educate or something. I might be
because they really don't. Like there are blind people that just really don't have the emotional energy to advocate and educate all the time.
Well, and they're not obligated to either. Yeah, and nobody's obligated to either.
So. No.
All right, I'll leave that one. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. Well, he did on more than one occasion say that seeing less does not mean seeing worse, and he put that card up twice.
I would say that's a buzz phrase.
Yeah, I think that counts. Yeah, you put it up more than once. It's usually a question of, is it something where they say something I like to call, or if it's something they repeat as a mantra over the course of the show. Word salad. No,
it's pretty good.
Yeah, my first reflex is at no point did I feel like I was being fed gobbledygook.
Yeah, no, he was pretty succinct, and like he may have been soft spoken and he may have spoken a bit slowly, but he was not a ramp. Like he didn't, like he was clear.
Yeah.
He didn't, try to confuse you with extra words.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. The closest argument I could make is his whole joining sports thing and or the hiring practice part, but
Yeah.
I might be reaching there.
That does feel a little bit like the sports thing is more of a
fairness thing.
A fairness thing, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Marginalization. It's implied, obviously, about in society and otherwise, and in the workplace and amongst other people. So, again, not him using it as a crutch, but just as a reality of reality.
Yeah.
So, contradicts own point or argument. Well, I mean, given that his argument was, that's one of the things I was trying to look for as I was listening to this. What exactly is the point of this? And I guess it was in his summation saying that visually impaired / blind people have something to teach other people. And I guess in that sense, he's not wrong.
No.
And he didn't contradict himself along the way. So if that was the thrust of his presentation, then yeah, he's fine. Systemic institutional. He talked about school systems. He talked about sort of the employment situation. So I think I'd be safe in saying that he talked about an overriding system / institutions in relation to his disability.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily put that as so far as to be like the actual way that we usually do that for this square though. Like
yeah, well, I mean that's the thing. That's why I kind of like this is because this wasn't unlike a lot of the TEDx's we watch. This wasn't like quasi-controversial or contentious or doing something weird, but at the same time there's still a lot of elements that, taken away from them being used as some kind of like tool or leverage or something, they're still present in the presentation.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm off base in saying that he was referring to society and school systems and a workplace and so on. So I think that's safe. White supremacy. Well, he was albino.
No.
Okay. It was a joke. I was joking. I thought it was a pretty good joke, but okay. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. I didn't get any non sequiturs. He didn't bring up anything out of the blue or whatever. So
yeah, no, he was pretty good about staying on point. This was actually a real well delivered.
Yeah.
Talk.
It does happen. I mean, I can think of this one. The other one that comes to mind that I did on here with Ranting Monkey, oddly enough, and not specifically, but it was also dealing with disability. It was the one where the guy was talking about how, was it like asparagus could help heal people's spinal columns. And it was another video on disability, but it was actually just a guy talking about how, a stripped piece of asparagus could be used as a lattice to help regrow spine cells and stuff. And it was actually a very interesting. I don't know about the accuracy of the science or anything, but for the presentation that it was completely benign and interesting. So it does happen. Let's see. Okay, so there is the card as we have it, guys. It is going to be an uphill battle to get a bingo. So for those of you listening at home, we've got childhood or family anecdote, privilege, microaggressions, unconscious bias, free space, attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase, marginalized marginalization, systemic institutional, a list, and collectivize his own demographic. I'm not seeing a bingo here.
A bing.
Yeah, we got a buh.
A buh.
We got maybe a buh, but not a bingo. But I've been surprised before, so given how spread out all of these circles are, yeah, if you guys have arguments for squares yet to be circled, put them in the chat now. Be sure to tag me in them so I can better distinguish them from anything else. And while I wait for that, if there are any, Blind Press, where can people find you? By the way, Blind Press's information is all in the description. I didn't remember to put it in there, didn't I? Yes, I did. Her YouTube channel, her Twitter, her Patreon, that's all in the description. Blind Press, where can people find you next?
You can find me next on my channel, Blind Press, tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern for the coffee stream. And we will be discussing some various news topics of the day. And I'll be also on my Twitch channel tomorrow night. And that's just twitch.tv/blind_press.
That I did forget to put in the description. I will add that after the show is over with. But yes, if you guys want to watch Blind Press play Mortal Kombat 11, usually as the Joker.
And Nightwolf.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You also do Nightwolf, kicking people's asses left, right, and center. And you also have your camera on you when you're doing that too, so people know that you're there doing it. It's not some kind of bot or something. All right, let's see. Scanner Daffley says Scribe needs a card/sound for TEDx talks that are not completely insane. That's true. I need to have like one with some heavenly music, like a good talk, something like that. It happens so rarely. I didn't think to make one, but I probably should, just for the off chance that this happens again at some point. So I will keep that in mind. Let's see. Pecoraro also says, then there's the new Blind Press After Dark.
Yes. So on Friday nights, yes. I split the game between Twitch and the quote accounting page that may or may not have an O and an F in it.
Oh, that kind of you mean the kind of fan page that is only viewable to certain individuals?
Yes, that kind.
Ah, yes, that kind of thing.
And the game and the whole point is that every time I lose, I have to remove something, and it's only but it doesn't get very far. But it's still fun. So
all
that.
Right. and a link to that could be found on your Twitter account, I'm sure, somewhere.
Yeah,
right?
it's pinned in my pinned tweet has my link tree.
Yes.
Which has that in it. Okay. And you can also go and find where to get merch, and like my Streamlabs link where you can get merch and everything. Blindpress.net. Very simple.
Let's see. Vero Vashmanai says, hey, Scribe, Swirl just got here. Can we start over? Sure, why not? Hello, everyone, and welcome to TED Excellence. No, I'm not going to actually do that. I'm not going to do the whole thing. But for a second there, you thought I was, weren't you? So there you go. That's going to really confuse some people if they came in late. You know what? It is a rarity, but I'm not seeing any arguments in the chat for squares to be circled, because I think we hit the wall there, and this is as quote unquote bad as it gets for a good TEDx talk. A couple of question marks on some things, but overall, completely benign, completely gentle and safe, and nothing particularly controversial in my mind. And the fact that between my sort of questions for Blind before we began and Blind's recitation of the employment situation for visually impaired and blind people, we practically did half the talk ourselves before we even started. So there you go. A good TED Talk, if you can believe it. It does happen from time to time. It doesn't happen very often, but there you go. And a TED Talk that was good, but made all the better by being joined with Blind Press.
Thanks for having me. It was fun as always.
Well, thank you for coming on. I promise at some point I'll be inspired to ask you to come on for a TEDx that has nothing to do with being visually impaired. But
well,
again,
maybe I'll find something about Canada and I'll be like, hey, scribbles.
There you go. Yeah, if I come across something about Canadian politics or something, I'll have to have maybe I can try to have a 3-way with you and Genty Maxi on. Oh man, imagine that. But we'll have to think about that for the future. But yeah, again, guys, check out Blind Press's YouTube channel in the description below. The Twitch channel will be in there shortly for those of you that are here now. But by the time you guys are watching in the future, it'll be there. And yeah, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you so much for your participation. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very little to do. Everybody who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. And what time is your coffee stream again tomorrow morning?
12 o'clock Eastern, 11 Central, 9 Pacific.
Oh, you even cover the Central.
I do.
I'm too much of a jerk to do that. Speaking of which, you can find me Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, right here, or the Sunday stream, where I will do something. I have no idea what yet. It depends on what will, quote unquote, tickle my fancy between now and Sunday morning. And as always, next Thursday at this same time block, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, for another TED Excellence. Unless, of course, one of my friends has a particular scheduling concern and wants to do it on a different day, I'll give you guys as much notice as I can through Twitter, which you can find a link in the description. Also, I generally forget to say this, but I'll say it again. If you happen to share my stuff, particularly on Twitter, please be sure to tag me in your tweet when you do so they know that you have, and so I can thank you personally, because I really do appreciate it. And I also recommend to anybody to do the same for any other content creator that you happen to appreciate on YouTube or otherwise, because I know that they appreciate it too. So with that, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Blind Press, thank you again for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Everyone, I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.